There is a place where the land remembers the birth of the world, where smoke still curls from wounds in the earth, where salt flats stretch like bleached parchment beneath a furnace sky, where mountains rise like old gods, cradling clouds in silence, where stone churches hide in shadows older than kingdoms, and where people, wrapped in centuries of story, walk paths worn by time and tradition. This is not just land. It is memory, volcanic, sacred, whispered, a place where the past is not buried, but breathing, where the soil is not still, but singing, and where every grain of dust might once have held fire or prayer. This is where the world stirs awake beneath your feet and speaks with a voice both ancient and alive. Welcome to Ethiopia, a land of contrasts and colliding times, where myth and geology seem to intertwine like smoke and wind. Here, the horizon is a shifting equation, sometimes etched to the blue of highland plateaus, sometimes shimmering with a mirage of desert heat. Ethiopia is often called the cradle of humanity, not as a metaphor, but as an archaeological truth. In the Afar region, the bones of Lucy, the 3.2 million year old hominid, were discovered, curled in stone as if in mid-step, a quiet testament to the beginning of us all. Yet Ethiopia doesn't just look backward. Addis Ababa, its bustling capital, pulses with youth, jazz, injure steam, and revolution. Here, you can feel the past brushing shoulders with the future, an Orthodox priest standing beside a poet turned barista, the rhythm of tradition playing over a beat of modern ambition. Travelers arriving in Ethiopia may feel time soften, not just slow down, but unravel. In the Ethiopian calendar, it is not the same year as yours. The day begins with sunrise, not midnight. Hours are counted from dawn. You must learn to tell time by light and shadow, not by numbers on a watch. The landscape itself teaches patience. In the Simien Mountains, morning fog holds tightly to the cliffs before letting go, revealing gelada monkeys grooming in the mist. In the Danakil, there is no rush, only the slow boil of salt, sulfur, and sun, sculpting color from agony. The land speaks, if you are quiet enough to listen. And the people, each region its own nation, its own tongue, its own way of being. Over 80 languages are spoken here, and each carries with it a way of seeing the world. In the southern Omo Valley, tribes like the Harar, the Mercy, and the Karo preserve customs that feel almost mythic, body paint that mimics the river's flow, rites of passage that echo across generations. Respect comes not from knowing the rules, but from recognizing how deep the roots go. A bowed head, a soft greeting, time shared over buna, coffee roasted and poured in ceremony, never rushed. This is how you are invited in. One lesser-known tale lives in the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, carved from the earth in the 12th century. Legend says angels helped finish them. But perhaps it was simply the unshakable devotion of hands that believed stone could become spirit. To walk through those sunken passageways is to walk inside someone's faith, quiet, shadowed, and deeply alive. When traveling here, learn the rhythm of the roads. Many are winding, bumpy, beautiful, lined with eucalyptus, and children waving with both hands. Bring sturdy shoes, not just for trekking, but for understanding. Ethiopia rewards those who walk, who linger, who don't mind the dust. Seasons shift with altitude more than latitude. In the highlands, bring warmth. Nights can chill the bones, especially in January. In the Danakil, expect heat like nowhere else on earth. Hydrate always. Shade is not decoration, it is salvation. English is spoken widely in cities, but Amharic is the national language, its script curling like ancient fire. Learn a phrase or two. Even a small effort opens large doors. And remember, Ethiopia was never colonized. It is fiercely independent, not defiant but proud. To travel here is not to observe, but to witness. You're not above or outside, but within. By the time you leave, the dust will cling to your boots like memory. The songs, whether markets or monks, will echo, and something inside you, too, may begin to stir, to shift, to listen differently. Because in Ethiopia, the world doesn't just show itself to you. It reminds you where you came from. There are places the earth tries to forget, and then there's the Danakil, a wound the planet remembers in color. Here, the crust opens itself to light and fury. Sulfur blooms yellow and green beneath skies that barely blink. Salt pans ripple like frozen waves. Geysers hiss. Pools glow with acid. And the heat, the relentless, surreal heat, presses in like breath from beneath the surface. You stand 100 meters below sea level, in one of the hottest inhabited places on Earth. The air is dry but alive, shimmering, quivering, carrying whispers of fire and salt. It is otherworldly, yes, but it is very much of this world. A world stripped down to raw geology, still in motion. And yet, people live here. The Afar people have made this place home for generations, extracting salt bricks by hand on flats and leading caravans of camels across the blinding white. In the early morning, when the light is still soft, their silhouettes stretch across the land, long shadows moving in quiet rhythm, like memory on the move. They call it white gold, salt that once formed the currency of empires. Even now, you can feel its weight, not just in trade, but in tradition, a slow economy of survival and pride. Visitors often underestimate this place. You need not only curiosity, but care. Travel with local guides. Let them show you where the crust is safe, where the colors are not a trap. Hydrate constantly. Wear long sleeves and wide hats. Your body will work hard just to exist here, and so will your sense of meaning, because in the Danakil, the beauty is not gentle, it is elemental, and all comes not in comfort, but in surrender. Stand still in the silence, if you can bear the heat, and listen. The earth is not done speaking. In the Dallol region, the earth becomes a painter, or perhaps a fevered dream. Here, color burns brighter than belief. Pools of neon green bubble beside crusts of orange and crimson. Sulfur smokes in soft plumes. Minerals crust into jagged spires like coral from another realm. And the ground itself, thin, fragile, alive, cracks and seeps like something half awake. This is one of the most extreme geothermal landscapes on Earth. A volcano without a classic cone, Dallol rises as a dome pushed up by magma. Beneath it, salt deposits fracture and fume. The result is a world that seems not made, but conjured. The silence here hums. It is not peace, but presence. A quiet charge with minerals, pressure, and possibility. Dallol has no rainfall. The average temperature hovers near 34 degrees Celsius year-round. In summer, it often exceeds 50. And still, life persists, though not as we know it. In 2019, researchers found evidence of tiny, extremophile organisms living in these acid pools, microbes surviving in conditions once thought sterile. No oxygen, extreme heat, toxic salinity. It challenges what we thought life could endure, and perhaps it echoes something deeper, that life does not bloom only in softness. Sometimes it insists itself into the harshest corners of the map. The journey here is not easy. From Mekil, you must ride hours through desert heat, often by convoy, sometimes sleeping under stars or salt-brittle tents. But the surreal beauty that greets you, if approached with respect, is unforgettable. Avoid stepping off hardened paths. The surface can be deceptive. What looks like crust might be a thin veil above scalding acid. Never wander alone. Heed the words of your guide as scripture, and know that you are not the first to stand in astonishment here. In the early 20th century, Italian prospectors came searching for potash. What they found instead was this impossible landscape and a warning. Several died from the terrain's unseen dangers: toxic fumes, collapsed ground, disorientation in the heat. Today, we come not to claim, but to witness. There is no comfort in Dallol, but there is a kind of truth, a reminder that the planet is not tame, that beauty can blister, that the earth, still molten at its heart, occasionally opens its eye, and we are allowed to look in. Harar is a city wrapped in walls, but breathing poetry. Tucked high in the eastern hills of Ethiopia, it is a place of color and curve, where alleyways twist like calligraphy and each corner feels like the turning of a page in a living manuscript. They call it the fourth holiest city in Islam. 99 mosques, countless shrines, and minarets rising between homes painted lavender, lime, and turmeric. But Harar's holiness is not loud. It lives in the scent of incense, in whispered prayers, in bread baked before sunrise and given to strangers with smile. The old city, the Jugal, is enclosed by ancient walls, their gates named like characters in myth. Shoa, Error, Sanga, Buddha, Falana. Step through, and you step back centuries. The pace slows. The world narrows, and every surface becomes a story. This was once the hub of trade between Africa, Arabia, and India. Here, ivory changed hands. Spices passed through fingers still stained with turmeric, and stories traveled faster than camels. In the late 1800s, a French poet named Arthur Rimbaud, disillusioned, brilliant, wandering, arrived in Harar. He stayed years, not to write, but to trade. Guns, coffee, curiosities. No one knows why he stayed. But perhaps Harar offered something Paris never could: silence, meaning escape. And then there are the hyenas. Every night, just outside the city walls, wild hyenas gather. And for centuries, the people of Harar have fed them, by hand, by mouth. Even during famine, they believe the hyenas protect the city from evil spirits. It began, they say, during a drought. The animals came too close. A truce was made with scraps of meat, and since then, the pact has held. Now, travelers can witness this quiet communion, not a show but a ritual, a conversation between fear and trust. In Harar, time is not just measured by prayer calls, but by gestures. A cup of coffee takes time. A glance means something. So slow down, wear respect like a second skin, and listen not just with ears, but with presence, because in Harar, every wall hums. and every silence has a name. Gondar rises where the highlands fold into memory. Once the seat of empire, it is a city of castles and courtyards. Ethiopia's Camelot, they say, where stone fortresses bloom out of green hills like relics from a dream too grand to last. The royal enclosure stands at the heart, a walled compound of palaces built by emperors in the 17th century. Each structure tells a story in stone, of ambition, of arrival, of a moment when Ethiopia looked outward and saw itself as a kingdom among kingdoms. But Gondar is not frozen. Outside the gates, life pulses, tuk-tuks rattle. Coffee steams from street stalls, and the rhythm of Amharic conversations carries down cobble lanes. Then there's Debre Baran Selassie Church. Its walls bloom with saints. Its ceiling, a galaxy of winged cherubs, wide-eyed and eternal, watches over you. Legend says the church was spared by invaders when a swarm of bees chased them away. Some say it was the angels themselves. Travelers here are invited to walk slowly, to read the past not just in books, but in weathered stone and quiet murals. Ask before taking photos. Dress with care in sacred spaces. The people of Gondar carry their history not as weight, but as inheritance, worn with grace. At sunset, the light softens, and the castles cast long shadows, as if bowing gently to the dusk. In the far south of Ethiopia, where the land folds into river and heat, the Omo Valley opens like an old, unwritten book. There are no pages here, only people, and each carries a language, a ritual, a memory that has outlived empires. This is not one tribe, but many. The Hamar, Mercy, Karo, Dasanek, Bodhi, Nyangatam, each with distinct traditions shaped not by the clock, but by the rhythm of earth and rain, flood and fire. To come here is not to visit, but to witness. The valley hums with life. Women with ochre-braided hair walk barefoot through morning mist, carrying water in clay pots. Men practice the donga, ritual stick fighting, a ceremony of strength, grace, and pride. Children trace stories into the dust with fingers still wet from a river. The Omo River winds through it all, the lifeblood of this region. It feeds the land, the cattle, the culture. The people know its moods better than maps ever could. Among the most striking are the Karo, who live along the riverbanks and decorate their bodies with ash and chalk, turning skin into canvas. Their artistry is fleeting, painted in the morning, washed away by evening rains. Beauty here is not made to last, but to speak. Then there are the Mercy, known for the lip plates worn by women, a custom misunderstood and often misrepresented. It is not a costume nor a curiosity. It is identity. It is choice, and it should be seen through respect, not novelty. Every gesture here means something. A beaded necklace might signal age or marriage. A scar might mark bravery. And silence is not empty, but full of watching. Traveling in the Omo Valley requires humility. Photography must be permission. Presence must be patient. Tourism has brought both opportunity and tension to this land. Some tribes engage willingly, inviting cultural exchange. Others feel the weight of outside gaze. Your presence here should be soft. Your questions quieter than your listening. Guides from a region, often multilingual, raised within or near these communities, are essential. They translate not just language, but intention. Trust them. Ask for context. And always remember, this is someone's home, not your canvas. There's a story from the Hamar people rarely told beyond the valley. It is of a boy who refused to leap the backs of bulls, a rite of passage. Instead, he walked into the forest and waited until the rains came. When he returned, he had carved a new flute, and with it, played a song so haunting that even the elders stood still. They let him pass into manhood, not through strength, but through sound. From then on, once every generation, one boy is allowed to walk instead of leap, if he carries music. The Omo teaches that culture is not fixed. It flows, bends, resists, reclaims. Dry season brings movement, families migrating with herds. Rain transforms the roads to rivers. Timing is everything. The best months for travel are between November and March, when access is possible and tempers of weather ease. Language shifts across kilometers. Amharic may not carry here, but hands do, eyes do, a shared meal, a shared fire, a shared sky. These things speak fluently. Be cautious of simplified narratives. The Omo Valley is not a museum of frozen pasts. It is alive. It adapts. It changes with the children who now hold cell phones in one hand and tradition in the other, and they are not contradictory. Because even in the most remote places, the future knocks. What matters is how gently we answer. You may come here looking for photographs, but if you are open, you will leave with something less visible. The ache of beauty not made for your eyes, but witnessed anyway. At night, the valley darkens early. The stars arrive without invitation, shimmering over thorn trees and thatched roofs. A fire crackles. Somewhere nearby, a drum begins, slow, then steady, then suddenly full of breath. This is not a performance. It is a pulse, and it will stay with you. At nearly 2,400 meters above sea level, Addis Ababa lives in the clouds, a capital built not on conquest, but on conversation. The name means new flower, and though the city has bloomed in fits and contradictions, there's a beauty in its struggle, a rhythm in its rush. Traffic coils like smoke, markets thrum with voices and cloves. And music, always music, drifts from windows and balconies, cracking the silence of modern sprawl with the warmth of old soul. Addis is not always easy. It is alive, messy, moving, becoming. This is where Haile Selassie once walked through cheering crowds, where Marxist revolution stirred and simmered, where the African Union now finds its seat, and where poets, priests, and Pan-Africanists meet in cafes over Buna and memory. In the morning, the city stretches. From the scent of fresh-baked dabo on street corners to the first burst of incense in a church courtyard, Addis greets the day like a story about to be told. Go to Mercado, one of Africa's largest open-air markets. It is not a place, but a pulse. Here, you'll find everything from spices to satellite dishes, sandals to saints carved in wood. Lose yourself, but gently keep your belongings close. Let your attention be your offering. Then climb to Entoto Hill. From there, the city unfolds beneath you, a patchwork of tin roofs, high rises, eucalyptus trees, and minarets. It was here that Emperor Menelik II watched the land before founding Addis in 1886, and here that the thin air reminds you how close you are to both heaven and hardship. In museums like the National Museum of Ethiopia, you'll meet Lucy, the 3.2 million year old fossil who reminds us where we all began. Her bones are small, but her presence is vast. Food here is more than nourishment. It is ceremony. Injera, spongy and sour, anchors every meal, what simmers with spice and patience. And coffee, roasted, ground, brewed, served in 3 rounds, is an invitation, not a transaction. Speak slowly. Greet warmly. In Amharic, salam means peace. Let be the first word you offer. Addis does not reveal herself at once. She waits. She tests. And then, quietly, she lets you in. Jinka is the gateway to the Omo Valley soul, a small town cradled by dusty plains and red earth. It pulses quietly with life caught between tradition and change. Here, markets bloom with woven baskets, beads, and ochre-stained skins. The scent of roasted coffee mingles with smoke from cooking fires. Travelers arrive, often tired from long roads, but greeted with smiles that feel like old stories whispered anew. Jinka is not a destination, but a beginning, the last stop before the wildness, before the tribes and rivers shape the land with their ancient rhythms. Respect is key. Here, as elsewhere in southern Ethiopia, photography is not a right but a privilege. Ask gently, offer gratitude. In the evenings, when the dust settles and the stars awaken, the town softens into a lullaby. Voices low, footsteps light, and the distant beat of drums call into the heart of the valley beyond. Travel slowly here, because Jinka is not just a place on a map. It is a door, and behind it, many worlds await. Mago National Park lies like a wild heart in southern Ethiopia's vastness, a place where acacia trees reach like ancient hands toward endless skies, where elephants move silently through tall grass, their heavy footsteps softened by the earth's pulse, and where buffalo, lions, and giraffes roam free, untamed, untouched. This park is not just a refuge for animals, but for cultures. The Mercy and Suri people, famed for their lip plates and body art, live near its edges. Their traditions intertwine with the landscape, like roots with soil. Travel here is slow and deliberate. Roads are rugged, and the heat is unyielding. But patience reveals rewards, a rare bird taking flight, a distant lion's roar, or the soft rustle of a breeze carrying stories older than memory. Guides are essential, not only for safety, but for understanding. They carry knowledge of animal habits, hidden paths, and sacred spaces. Respect for the land is paramount. Visitors must tread lightly, leaving no trace but footprints. Mago offers a chance to witness wildness without walls, a reminder of a world before boundaries, before fences. Here, the earth breathes with freedom, and you, for a moment, become part of that breath. Ras Dashen stands as Ethiopia's highest peak, a giant guarding the Simien Mountains. At 4,550 meters, it pierces the sky with rugged majesty. Its rocky slopes whispering stories of ancient glaciers and volcanic fire. Climbing Ras Dashen is not just a hike. It's a journey through shifting climates and breathtaking views, from mist-wrapped forests to alpine meadows kissed by sunlight. Local guides accompany travelers, their footsteps steady, their knowledge deep as the valleys below. Altitude is both challenge and teacher here. Slow your breath, steady your pace. At the summit, the world unfolds, endless peaks folding into horizons, clouds below and silence that hums. Ras Dashen is a reminder. Sometimes, to know a land, you must rise above it. Alaba Kulito lies in the fertile Rift Valley, a town where earth and water meet in quiet abundance. Here, fields stretch in patchworks of green and gold, fed by rivers that have carved lifelines through the land for centuries. Life here is slow, shaped by seasons and soil. Farmers tend teff and maize, their hands moving with practiced grace, while children play beneath acacia trees that hum with cicadas. The Alaba people are known for their weaving, vibrant textiles that tell stories through color and pattern. Trade here is personal. Markets bustle with fresh produce, handmade crafts, and the warm greetings of neighbors. Visitors to Alaba Kulito are invited to step gently, to listen to the soft rhythm of daily life. Learn a few words in Alaba language. Your effort will be met with warmth. As the sun sets, casting golden light over the fields, the town exhales, peaceful, steady, alive with quiet promise. Konso is a place where earth and artistry meet in astonishing harmony. Nestled on terraces carved from hillsides, this UNESCO World Heritage town is alive with color, culture, and ancient craftsmanship. The Konso people have shaped their landscape over centuries, building stone walls that snake along the land like protective veins, constructing houses from wood and mud, and carving wooden totems called waka that stand like silent guardians. These sculptures honor ancestors, tell stories, and mark passage of time. Walking through Konso is like stepping into a living gallery, where every stone and carving pulses with meaning. Agriculture here is a careful dance with nature. The terraces prevent erosion and hold life in the dry seasons. Respect is essential. Ask permission before photographing. Share in the rhythms of market days, where vibrant fabrics and hand-carved goods are exchanged. Konso is both a fortress and a poem, steadfast, beautiful, and quietly alive. Acid Lake lies in the shadow of Dallol, a surreal pool that seems painted by an unseen hand. Its waters swirl with colors that defy expectation. Bright yellows, luminous greens, and deep reds that shift with the sun's passage. This is no ordinary lake. It is an extreme environment where acidity is so high that few creatures dare to touch its surface. The lake is part of a volcanic crater, fed by hot springs rich in sulfur and minerals. Steam rises constantly, carrying a sharp scent that hints at the powerful forces beneath. Despite the harshness, Acid Lake holds a strange beauty, one that is at once alien and intimately connected to the Earth's restless heart. Local far guides lead visitors carefully around its edges, sharing stories of how the lake was formed in eruptions long past, how it pulses with life too small to see, and how it shapes the land around it. Travelers must tread lightly here. The ground is fragile, sometimes thin, and sudden cracks can appear without warning. Wearing sturdy shoes and keeping the marked paths is essential. There is a quiet lesson in Acid Lake's fierce colors and volatile temperament. It reminds us that beauty does not always come soft and gentle. Sometimes it arrives blazing, vivid, raw, and unyielding. For those willing to listen, The lake whispers of Earth's constant transformation, a place where creation and destruction dance in endless cycles. As you stand beside the shimmering waters, beneath skies that feel impossibly vast, it is easy to feel small, but also connected to a world that is always changing, always alive. The land we have traveled is not simply a place on a map. It is a living story, written in stone and flame, whispered by wind and water, carried in the footsteps of those who came before. Ethiopia's vastness holds echoes of beginnings, of fire beneath Earth's skin, of bones buried deep in dust, of voices singing beneath endless skies. It is a place where time folds, ancient and immediate, sacred and wild. We walk alongside mountains that pierce the heavens, trace rivers that cradle life in their flow, and stood beneath skies painted with impossible colors. We've listened to the stories of people whose lives are woven with the land's breath, whose rituals, songs, and smiles speak of resilience and grace. Travel here is not always easy. The heat can press heavy. The roads can twist without mercy. But in that challenge lies the invitation to slow down, to open, to see beneath the surface, to learn that beauty is not always gentle, that history is not just a record but presence, and that every journey is also an inward one. So as we leave these lands, may the dust cling softly, the stories linger warmly, and the spirit of Ethiopia continue to call. You are the traveler now. The Earth's whisper is yours to carry.